If you could live green, would you? I'm Nick Federoff, host of Things Green, where we introduce nuggets of green lifestyle from gardening, upcycling, answering your questions, sustainability, even discussing environmental issues. You can become more confident in making the right decisions for you and your family. So come along as we are Things Green. Now this here has a different look from the last time I was here.
Yep.
That's pretty wild. Okay, for the record, this guy right here, Mr. Robert Summers, he is what we call, I was gonna say a militant gardener. He is
Yep.
He's an enthusiast beyond belief. I don't know what other word would be for use for enthusiast. Oh, he's an extreme gardener. He's the only guy that I know that will actually pull plants out, repot them, put them up someplace else, and then just change things around with the existing plants all the time.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about the ultimate recycler over here. Now, this area behind me, the last time I saw it, the plants did not look like this. They were itty bitty, if any, kind of plants, and you had an irrigation system that was on top of the ground. I don't see an irrigation system. What'd you do?
Yep. So we put in drip line.
Okay.
And we created a grid. So we took the drip line and we made concentric circles 12 inches apart. We used drip line that is has emitters every 12 inches. So it's kind of 12 by 12. And we're delivering water at 0.9 gallons per hour at 25 PSI or so. So we're probably at 40 PSI. So we're probably watering this 3 times a week and maybe using 4 gallons of water for the whole week.
Yeah, but
like
the challenge that I see with this, though, is that I know this is DG, decomposed granite.
Yes.
I mean, not a normal person isn't going to plant in here, yet here you are with your jackhammer.
Yeah, we for these ficus trees, we jackhammered 4 by 4 by 6 foot holes. And if you take a look at the pictures, it's literally hard as rock. We even filled the holes with water to see if we could get the water to, start permeating into the ground. Just sat for a couple of days. There's like that much water in the holes.
But you want to know something? If you go to Central California, where they grow, I mean, that is the hub for all agriculture in the world. We're feeding 90% of the United States from the Central Valley. They have hard pan too, and they're able to work around it. Just like that. I mean, I've actually seen them put dynamite in the ground, you light it, and they blow it up because they can't even get the jackhammer or the backhoes or anything like that in there. So I understand that. Yeah, totally understand that. So we have that going on over here, and you have a menagerie of plants, like you mentioned, the ficus, which, by the way, they root very easily from cuttings, and the ficus family runs all the way from the edible fig all the way up to the giganormous, and I'm talking big banyan trees where they have leaves on there like that. The fiddle leaf fig, that's all in the same family. It's really kind of a fun thing.
Yep.
So I see you have right over here, you have this particular plant. You have the Carissa.
Yep.
Do you ever get any fruit off of it?
This whole hillside used to be Carissa.
No.
My dad planted Carissa here in the 60s, and the whole hillside was Carissa.
Okay, so this flower right here will end up turning into a plum-like fruit. And it's it's a tart, sweet kind of a fruit, but you're gonna feel like when you cut it open and you start eating, it's really cool to do in front of people, because when you open it up, it turns milky on the inside, and it looks like you're eating poison. It's really good. Don't do poison, but you could do this, but the natal plum, that's what that is.
They're actually good. Yeah. And I have freaked some people out in the past because I've grabbed some off and I just take a bite into it. They're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I said, it's fine.
I absolutely love doing that with daylilies too. You see a daylily flower, then you could take and do pretty much the same thing. Okay, so I'm noticing that you have a couple of these Mexican petunias.
Yes.
This one's a little bit sadder than the ones over there. Why do you think that is?
Well, true story is this actually propagated by itself in one of those raised beds.
Oh.
So it grew from scratch, or from, just a little piece of root. And so it's not sad. It just got transplanted, like you were saying. I never let plants perish if I can help it. So if this is not doing well here, I'm going to move it in the back somewhere. I'm always, like you said, recycling plants. I never, they're like all my children.
So speaking of children, you have a lot of, I'm not going to try to get too close over here. And I know that our camera person over here, she doesn't really like it, but can you see the bees? You got a lot of native bee activity, a lot of pollination.
Yeah, and the butterflies, when the sun comes out a little bit more, you'll have butterflies all over this.
Okay, so is this a little bit of the irrigation that I see going on over here?
Yes.
Okay, so this right here is the irrigation. This is a 1/2-inch tubing. And I know, now why did you decide to cover it up? Obviously because we're at a hill like this that kind of slid down, and maybe it looks like you did some new planting in there.
Yep.
But why do you cover it up?
Well, I covered up because, even though it is rated for it has UV
protection.
It has UV protection. I still want to cover it up because it'll last longer. Also, if I get it, and in this case I put mulch on top of it, it needs to be replaced, but I put mulch on top of it so that I can help keep the moisture retained in the soil, and it protects the drip line from decomposing over time.
Well, plus the mulch acts as a PURDY. It's purdy.
Yes.
Look at these flowers.
That is true.
They are just so gorgeous.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I never even actually smelled it. Did they have any scent?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no scent on these things.
It's actually called a Mexican bell.
Mexican bell.
And it's in the petunia family.
Look at that. That is just so gorgeous. And look how dark the stem is on this, and the leaves and the contrast.
But I fell in love with this. We found it. My wife loves purple, so you can see that purple is a lot of the theme here. But I fell in love with these guys because they bloom and go away and bloom and go away for months. They're absolutely an incredible plant.
Easily propagated.
Easily propagated, yes.
Well.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, yeah, variegated plants going on here. You've got the Morea activity. This right here, oh, look at this. You've got a little bit of this is a crepe myrtle.
Yeah.
Crepe myrtle was the quintessential, I don't know if I say that word right.
Quintessential.
Yeah, that one. This was the one that was most popular in the 1950s, early 60s. Super. And then what ended up happening was that the market got oversaturated. They were everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And that right there, that white stuff is powdery mildew. And powdery mildew is a fungus. And this fungus will inhibit this thing from growing as successfully as possible. But if you look right over here, you'll see the beautiful flowers that it can give at the same time. It's just super dynamic. It is it's actually considered a patio tree because it doesn't normally get massive. It'll stay in a smaller, this is one you can grow inside of a container if you wanted to, or you can grow like this. You've got this thing growing as a multi-trunked, or it could be a singular trunk. It really doesn't matter. But I'll tell you what I'm kind of interested in. You've got other stuff happening over here in the rest of the yard. And this is an established landscape with changing faces to it all the time.
Yes.
Because this is something earlier you mentioned about your dad, and he was the one who initially planted many of these plants that are here.
Yes.
And you're keeping up with it to make sure that it's staying true to what the plants were supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and the true story is, years ago I tore out a lot of the older, just like the podocarpus and things like that, and we've been going back to the original landscape plans because it was planned out by a landscape architect.
Ah, you cheater!
And I'm realizing that, well, I definitely didn't switch out my
St. Augustine?
St. Augustine for what my dad had, which was dichondra.
Ah, yes.
So he had, when I was a kid, he had dichondra here. But the podocarpus that he planted, the trunks got to be about like that, and they were pushing up against the house.
And were they going up to the top too?
Oh yeah, these
they're hitting it.
guys grow all the time, and I was going to prune these, but the birds have nests in here right now.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't prune them.
Now, wasn't there a podocarpus across the street that was overly huge?
I believe so.
I don't remember where it's at. Well, anyway, but these things you gotta. This is the Podocarpus gracilier. There are several different varieties of these, and this one has this has a small leaf on it. There might be a variety that has even a smaller leaf, but if you blink your eyes, this thing can turn into a huge tree. So you have to be pruning. Well, you're pruning it 3 times a day for 365 days a year?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now over here, this is pretty interesting. You're growing something here that you shouldn't be growing,
Yes.
and you're protecting it.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us what we have going on over here.
So this is a little mango tree. It's an Alfonso mango, and I have not had great success with mango trees. No big surprise. Southern California, direct sun. But in this particular case, I realized that I needed to get him somewhat shaded. And as you can see, we got a little bit of fruit.
Yeah.
Which I realized I should pull off because he's too young to have fruit.
Keep them on.
But I'm going to keep it on. I'm going to keep it on for fun. But he's doing better. You know, he was so stressed about a month ago, but he's doing a lot better now.
Okay, now see the tips over here? This is salt damage. This
Really?
is saltburn, yeah, saltburn from the water. So whenever you have a tip, so there's 2 things that will actually, it's really interesting what plants will do. When it comes from the tip, start going backwards, that's salt damage. If you have burning on the edges, and it really looks like somebody put and took a lighter to it, but if it was on the edges, it tells us one of 2 things, which is really not kind of fun because you just don't know. It either tells you it's too much water or not enough water. So having this here is actually not a bad idea because it's sensitive to that, and obviously it's sensitive to the salt. Yeah. So okay, so we've got the St. Augustine grass. Back in the day, you can tell you got a little bit extra water going on over here.
Yep.
Something's happening. Now, of course, that's from rotting debris underneath. That's what's happening. So maybe at one time you dump some compost on here or something, or it could be just too much water. Do you ever dethatch this?
We do. I maintain this green 365 days a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, Southern California helps us, but I water and fertilize all year round. I do not let it go dormant.
Yeah. And you know what? That's something that we can do here in areas. Of course, we're up on a hilltop over here. This is gonna sound silly because where I happen to live, I'm in a valley and I get frost. And you could walk out in the wintertime and everybody's house, I mean, it looks like it snowed. For how high you are up over here, do you get that, or do you get any kind of, I hate to say snow.
We get frost.
You do get heavy frost?
Okay. We can get frost on the ground sometimes, ice on the car windows, things like that.
Yeah.
But typically, I mean, we don't get much below 35 here.
Yeah.
And not even a few days of 35.
Which, by the way, can take this and turn dormant unless you are highly feeding it and making sure it gets water.
Yeah.
Even the sod companies, Southland Sod Farms, they really don't like selling this stuff in the winter because even though that they're in Point Hueneme, Ventura area, which is super mild weather, and you have the ocean right there, it still goes dormant.
Yeah.
So they don't want to sell that. All right, I'm excited what you did here. I cannot believe that you did this. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the last time I was here, this was about a 45-foot tall shrub, and it was encroaching out all the way over here, and we talked about how important it is to come through here and to prune this thing, and you actually prune this thing up. Are you taking like an hour a day to do this? I mean, this is really tough. He's thinning it out. He's actually thinning it out, and look what happens. This is a Texas privet, and look how you have brand new growth on this old wood. And this right here is just exemplifies what I always talk about, that there are dormant buds all along. Look, I see all this over here. This is actually, these are all little tiny dormant buds. So what he did is he lopped off the top over here, but if he wanted to, he could cut this right here. He'd have new growth over here. And how do we know this? Look at the branch that's right next to it over here. Look at this. This one, same exact thing. This is just beautiful. You're taking your secateurs, your hand pruners, and you're just sticking it in there and you're cutting.
Absolutely.
You're not using a pair of shears.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, this is all hand pruned. And it was, the thing about these bushes is, you know, typical gardeners will come along with hedge trimmers, and they will whack these things up and keep them like perfectly straight and pruned. And what that does is it ends up causing all this terrible dead wood, and it ends up, you don't see it now, but all the top of this was diseased because it was cut and cut and cut and left open, and there were all kinds of bugs and problems with it. So we cut all that off. This was, like you said, growing out here on the sidewalk, and I cut it way, way back, and I brought it up because I have accent lighting for at night, so you can see the trunks now.
Okay.
And
so it gives it a different look.
Gives it a different look. It's not a straight hedge. It's more architecturally different, architecturally interesting.
Sure.
And I'm just amazed at the growth. I continue to walk along here and try to like break off the dead stuff.
And you should. You should. Like all this dead stuff down here, just take and pull it off. And that's how you know that it's dead, by the way. So you just take a branch right here and that's dead. It's just that simple. It's not hanging on, and you can tell there's no green on the inside. So I am so proud of you for doing this. This is really, really awesome. To see this right here, and not to see a leaf being sheared off, and then a lot of times it gets those brown tips on there. Oh, just totally terrible. Okay, so our camera lady here, she's coming across the plant that tried to tackle me one day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I thought you pulled it out.
I did pull it out, Nick. I actually pulled 2 of them out, and they're down in the greenhouse,
thriving,
getting ready to be planted somewhere else. But they grew back up from the roots that were left in here. This is a boysenberry vine, and you're looking to get tripped by it again, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. You always come back to the scene of the crime. That's what you do. So this you pulled out. Now, what's interesting, and the reason why I grew back is because these are deep-rooted plants. And you could dig down, probably 5 feet and still see roots. That's the whole deal about this. You have to be constant with it. Back in the day, in fact, when I bought the thingsgreen.com botanical gardens, I had blackberries along a 50-foot fence. Pulling and pulling and pulling, and then I had a uncle of mine, may he rest in peace, he sent me some stuff that up in Oregon it was legal, but in California it wasn't. And I'm not saying that stuff ever made it to my blackberries, but they stopped growing after one application.
Huh. So that was prayer or poison?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not saying how I'd gotten there. Okay, so you have this. Is this already done?
So this is a plum,
and
we just picked and ate the last fruit for the season. It had beautiful, beautiful fruit. And this is a transplant, so this is another one. I moved. It was 30 feet away, and it's one of my original scientific experiments. So I moved it here, deep watered it, and obviously it's thriving. It now needs a good pruning.
Well, you could wait. Anything that's coming on this way that's going to smack you on the face while you're walking.
Yeah.
But you could wait. What I would always keep on top of, though, is this right here. This is always a tough thing. You have these suckers.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tell you're doing a good job keeping up on it already, because otherwise I go to most places and they're just as big as here. Anything that's way down on the bottom over here, you could take and you could pull off. Now, there happens to be a couple of different products on the market. One of them is called Sucker Stop. And what you do is you pull them off and then you spray it. And the stuff itself, it doesn't kill the plant. What it does, it puts a protective coating on top of it. It's called a plant growth regulator. Plant growth regulator. And that plant growth regulator will keep it from germinating as fast. It will grow back, but it's just not as fast. In fact, you know, when I see this plant over here, this ligustrum, I remember I had a different plant. It was when I was in the business. It was a Dondonea hopseed bush, and this plant was probably, I want to say maybe 3 football fields long. It was 300 yards. It was along the fence line, and it was at a trucking yard in the city of Industry. And we had to keep them like so the truck,
Right.
keep them big so the trucks wouldn't get into them. The customer always wanted them. I couldn't keep up with the pruning. It was just too much. So we would take and we would put plant growth regulators on there. And I learned about it from all place from Caltrans. Caltrans, they will use plant growth regulators on plants all the time. Now things have changed, everybody, they kind of want to do the organic thing and all that. And I don't know of an organic product that would suppress, but for instance, what you would do is that you would cut it back like this. You wait a couple of weeks till you start seeing just little baby growth. Then you spray it, and then once you spray it, a very unusual thing happens. The plant turns greener. And it actually gets greener because it's not growing outwards, but there's energy still happening down below, and it's forcing the juices up into the leaves. And what it wants to do is, what do I do? And it turns it into chlorophyll for the plant. And it turns greener, and you don't have to fertilize as often. Now, as often is the real trick over here, because if you stop fertilizing altogether, then you can actually harm the plant. Now, the thing of it is, you're not spraying all the time. You have to give the plant a rest. So you spray, you cut it, you wait a couple of weeks, you wait till those wounds heal, because we're not going to do what he was doing over here. We have to use the shears on that, and then once they heal, then you spray it, and then probably 3 to 4 times a year is how we would spray, not every other month, not every month, like that. So anyway, it's kind of a fun thing. Well, I'll tell you, you have just a lot of fun things that are happening over here in your yard. And I appreciate the fact that you opened your door and you let us come over here. I am so excited about this. I didn't notice until we were standing over there. I wanted to change the subject right when we were talking about the podocarpus. I looked over here. What? Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. And it will turn even that much more beautiful because all of these leaves that are not sheared are going to actually cover up this whole structure. Now, if he doesn't want that to happen, he's got to be on top of the pruning aspect of it if he wants to see the structure of the branching. So if you were to do this to like Raphiolepis and most of your shrubs, your smaller plants, oddly enough, you won't have to prune that often. Once you got it under control like this, it's just a matter of maintaining it. And that right there is the hot ticket.
Yeah.
I like that. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
I can't tell you how important it is to water your lawn during installation and afterwards to get it properly established. For every couple hundred square feet, give your sod a water break. With a hose, lightly water to prevent wilting or heat loss. Be strategic about it because you don't want to water the dirt that isn't sodded yet. Think for a moment what a muddy mess that would be. Plus, this will give you time to stretch and survey the work you've done. Once that gorgeous lawn has been installed, we need to remember turf and soil have a symbiotic relationship because both are living organisms, and in order for lawn genocide not to happen, we need to follow the 7-3-2-1 watering guide after the sod has been installed. For the first 7 days, you water 3 times a day at 7 a.m., 11 a.m., and 2 p.m. For the next 7 days, you water 2 times a day at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. For the final 7 days, you water once a day at 7 a.m. After that, your lawn is established and it only needs about 1¼ inches of water per week. Thanks for joining me on another excursion of Things Green. Our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain so you can become exposed to a green lifestyle inside and outside of the home and community, all on your terms. Join me next time right here as we help you with Things Green.